Hey everybody, and welcome to another video. My name is Elric, and in this video we're going to be talking about support and resistance, which is an extremely important part when trying to figure out your strategy, because we're going to be bouncing off or bouncing from these reports and supports and resistance, and we want to pass through them. So I'm going to kind of go over those on an actual chart, and then we'll look at the code. So hope you enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. So I have Tesla on the screen, and there are some important things to know about resistance, and one of them is that the more obscure the time frame, like month, week, day, the stronger the support and resistance actually is. So when you're looking at these two things on the 15-minute and you're constantly going through them, it's not going to be as important as the daily at that point. So in my code, which we'll see in a moment, I usually look at 2 before and 2 after. So when drawing support and resistance, we're looking at, let's say this bar right here, because this is definitely one. I look at the 2 previous and the 2 lead, if the lead exists, and draw my resistance there. So on the monthly and weekly, what I like to do is try to hit that high and the body. So this body right here is above these 2 and above these 2. So I have 2 resistances. And the same thing goes for support, which is just a resistance that's under the current price. So they basically are interchangeable. So this 2 forward, 2 over here, I would mark this one as well. I'll go ahead and change these colors. I do like to do this just because they make them a little bit more easier to spot. Same with thicknesses or opacity, whatever you want to use. But then after we're done with the month, if we want to do more, we're still really far from here, we can. But after we're done with the month, we just kind of go in to the weekly and follow the same pattern. You'll notice that we do get, the same collisions here, because monthly has defined those, but in weekly we can find some more supports and resistances. And let's just change the color. Let's see, that's pretty close. And that one is close. So you notice that we'll get pretty close to other levels. And that is what it is. 1, 2. This one's higher, 1, 2. But this high is 633, 635. So I actually wouldn't, visually I would probably mark this. But I'm pretty strict when it comes to it. Because if we can have a strict set of parameters, then we have like this consistent testing environment. But after weekly, I'll go back down into day and look at those, see where the weeklies are bouncing. This is probably what we were looking at on the weekly. It wasn't strong enough to mark it on the weekly, but right there, it is strong enough to mark on the daily. Let's just do blue. Same with right here, really close to it. So we got these nice kind of bouncing from. You can see it fight with weeklies, then use weekly as support, even though we didn't mark it on the daily. That's just how this stuff goes. So that is essentially support and resistance. And why we're doing this is if this candle right here triggered our strategy, we want to find the resistances and supports as close as possible to this, to make sure that as we're looking in the days coming from the strategy, if we've broken a resistance or support based on the strategy that we're programming. So if we're programming a short strategy and we're triggered right here, we want to watch and see how many days it took to actually break some support or come back above it, because that will give us this kind of range of confidence for the percent chance that we'll actually wind up in the area that we want to be. So if we go ahead and look at the code, I created a table valued function for this, and it's pretty good actually. So I can cut these and just do select star from base data and run it. So 2128 is Tesla. You see right here. I just wanted to kind of demo Tesla since that's what I'm looking at right now. And running this, I get the support and resistances or this is just all the data, the high, open, low, close for the lifetime that I have for Tesla. So that would be up to Friday the 10th and is back far as I believe June 2010 is when I had my cutoff because I don't want all of this data. But yeah, so that's the base, is just getting together all of our all of the data we need. We have our high, open, close, high, low, open, close, and transaction and event from the transaction stuff, the transaction domain, and we have our date dimension attached to it. Now in my video 43043, the date dimension, I do have the code to create this date dimension, and I'll just kind of show you the extent of it. It's all these tables between here and here where we have our same classification, our same slices for the dates, but we have a lot of information attached to these to give us better and quicker, less functionally or smart comparisons, so we know immediately this is the first of the week, first of the month, last of the week, last of the month, etc., which will come in handy later, which is why I have them up here. So that is all for that base data, and then we just kind of define our resistances using window functions. Now for daily, I am pretty strict. I look for 3 instead of 2. You could do less, you could do more, you could do 4, 5, etc. But the pattern is basically the same. Behind us, lag, comparing the event transaction date. And 3 behind us, 3 in front of us, lead. And we're just comparing it to the price high. So for the daily, I'm just looking at high and low. And I will run that. And as it processes all of the transactions that we have, we start getting these hits. So if I go to more recently, let's say September 3rd, we got a new hit on the low at 724. So I can go back and look at 724. Actually, I'll just draw a line and do it this way. 724.20. And we're on the day, so oh, there it is. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And is that the third? That is the third. So that is just what that code is doing for us. Is later on we'll basically remove everything that doesn't have the high-low support. So there we go. For the month and week setup, I'm basically using first value, last value, and the min and max. And I will go ahead and select star from the month. And run this. So we have these these row numbers, and I'm just using them for this video. I do need the descending just to, the last of the month doesn't line up as well as it needs to because we don't trade on the weekends. There's no price data on the weekends. So I use the row number just to go ahead and get that first and last day a lot easier as we're using our window functions. So as we're coming through these window functions, let's say this is the first value. Since we're ordering by date, this is actually the price open of this date, and then when we move to the next one, it just holds that value. So that's first value. Last value is the opposite, where every time we run through, we hold that value until we get to the end, and that's that final value because it's the last value. Min and max will barely change depending on, you know, what is actually happening, because we are partitioning by the year. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I do apologize. It's the same thing though. We are looking at the year month combination for our relationship. And that's what we're partitioning over. So we get our low and high, or our min and our max, our last and our first. Now, looking at this data, it's what we want to do is find the last. Let's go to a more complete month recently and kind of compare it to what we have. So this is considered the end of the month. Oh, September's not finished yet. We'll use August. So we have the end of the month on August. And we'll go ahead and go to our chart, switch it to month, and just compare August, the high low. So we have an open of 700, a high of 740.39. 730.49, actually. This is going to be easier. Let me throw a 3-second delay on this, hover over this. And I'm just using Windows basic snapping feature. So now I can actually go to my code and get a better comparison. So 735.72 is our close. Our open matches up. Our monthly. And all of this, did I miss one? Oh, there it is, low, 648.84. So we are building candles that actually match the candles without requiring additional API calls. So getting that daily helps us look into the more obscure, getting the minute as well if you want to spend your $1,000 a month for that insane cuts of data. Do so. So on monthly, unlike daily, and I'll minimize this, daily where I'm just looking at high, low, and 3 slices. On monthly, I'm looking for 2 on the high, low. And weekly, I'm looking for not just the high, low, but also the minimum of the open and close. So I should be looking at the bodies on the monthly as well, but I actually don't use monthly data. I don't use these resistances just because I'm looking for swing trades. So I'm looking at the weekly setup. The weekly, I'm only looking at 2 instead of 3 to kind of not make it as strict, but also I'm looking for the highs. I'm looking at the max of the open close. That's why we have the max here, or greater than equal. And for support, I'm looking at the lows and the minimum of the open close. So that will give me those resistances. In the end, I put them all together with a simple union and a denote for what I'm looking for. So month, day, and week. And for the most part, I would just remove or comment out what I'm not needing, just to save that time and comment out the CTEs in question. But this is just a simple table valued function that is really easy to use for testing our support and resistance. So that's kind of all I wanted to go over today, is looking at why this is important and how we're resolving it. As we're looking into the strategies, we'll be able to say, hey, based on my, what candle triggered this strategy, should I be looking at the resistance as it compares to the high, low, open, close, or all of them, so I can analyze the strategy as a whole? Should I be looking for that resistance or add the average true range to it and get a higher and lower resistance, kind of get expectations? So analysis is pretty deep, but it is what it is, especially when you're doing it outside of a black box like Tensor. So thank you again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I am way farther ahead. I'm already running strategies and trying to perfect them. So in the next video, we'll actually be looking at how we're processing our strategies and look at our first strategy. So I will see you in that video. Have a good one.